Hello and welcome back to Tuesday at Dobbs's. As always, thank you so much everyone for getting in touch. The best place to do so, comments section below. And if you have a longer story, maybe with some pictures, you can email hi@tuesday@dobbs.com. Let's begin from Linda. The struggling used vehicle market. Hi Freddie. I wonder what your thoughts are on the state of the current second-hand/classic bike market. The reason I ask is because I cannot, for the life of me, sell a lovely example of a black 1997 Yamaha XJR 1200. It's immaculate and is well maintained. It's done 40,000 miles and I have decided to get rid of it as I'm getting older and it's getting a bit heavy for me. In spite of dropping the price to £2,100 and advertising it on every medium possible, I just don't get any interest in the bike at all. I've never had a problem selling such a nice example of a motorcycle before. I'd be interested in other people's views and opinions on the subject. Has the bottom really fallen out of the older end of the second-hand market? Are folks just not buying the larger CC bikes now, or am I simply unlucky? Linda, fascinating discussion this. I would love to hear from all of you. What are your thoughts on this? I found your bike, Linda, very easily, and you're right, you have advertised it everywhere. So if anyone is interested in this bike, here's Linda's bike. It's the 1997 XJR, even reduced from £2,100 to £2,000. So what I'll do for this, I'll turn on screen recording and I'll show you a few examples of what the used bike market is like, pushing into the classic area, around about 20-year-old bikes, things like that. Ignore the fact it says dollars. I have no idea why it says that, so it's pounds sterling. Here's the bike, lovely looking Yamaha in very good condition with a perfectly decent description of the bike. So why is it not selling? Well, when I had a look at other bikes, unfortunately, it looks like this is just the market price for these kind of bikes now. I remember over COVID, everyone was freaking out about two things. They were freaking out about buying a dog and freaking out about used vehicles, i.e. the cost of buying a dog doubled and the cost of used vehicles seemed to double. You could buy a brand new car, drive it for 4 years and then sell it for more than you bought it for a lot of the time. The market just went absolutely crazy. But now the market has completely settled and it's back to normal. It's re-leveled itself. It's quite eye-opening, the kind of bikes that you can get around about the 20-year plus mark. Let's start with this. 2005 Triumph Sprint ST 1050. Excellent bike with a brilliant engine, fully loaded, all of the panniers. Listed 2 days ago, already reduced by £100, it's £1,800 for a very well maintained, fully loaded sports tourer bike. It's so much bike for the money. We could go here and look at the legendary Honda Blackbird, a genuine legend of a bike. 1999 model, so it's 25 years old, and you could be thinking, wow, this is getting close to classic level. But no, it's £1,750. So much bike in excellent condition for no money at all. I'll do a couple more. Again, another big engined 21-year-old bike, BMW R1150 RT, listed a month ago, £2,600 and reduced by over 10%. Again, excellent condition. It's true, these big engine bikes, it does look like people are scared off. There are some that buck the trend. For example, 2003 Suzuki GSX 1400, £3,700, which relatively speaking, from what I've just shown, is actually quite strong money. So apart from a few examples, I mean, even this one more, Suzuki Bandit. This is, or was in my eyes, a surefire future classic. The legendary Bandit 1200. These are 25-year-old plus bikes now. Yet you can get a really nice one in the right colour, Gen 1, the exact one you want, for £2,800. Mark 1 model, good condition. 13,000 miles. It just shows, give or take a few models that are the exception, but the exception doesn't disprove the rule. There's no money. There's no money in older bikes at all, with, of course, a few rare exceptions. But Linda, this doesn't just stick to motorbikes. If I go into cars here, 6 Series BMW, just to show you, people get scared off by big engined / premium old vehicles. Look at this 6 Series BMW, £2,250 for a 19-year-old 6 Series. I remember this being on Top Gear seemingly yesterday in my mind, and I'm sure they were £60,000 back in the day. Very good condition, and it's £2,000. It's almost the price of my Fiat 500 from a very similar year. Yeah, I mean, it's scary for a lot of people. This is the problem, buying big-engined machines that are coming up to 20 years old. They are just, in a lot of people's eyes, potential money pits. I'll never forget Monica's cousin. She bought a 3 Series Beamer, and it was 19 years old. I mean, this isn't the height of luxury, a 3 Series BMW, but she bought it, she took it to her mechanic, and it's a perfectly decent looking 3 Series. And the first thing her mechanic said to her is, "Why the hell did you go and buy that? That is going to be the most atrocious money pit." And the problem was, these are cars and some of the bikes that are cheap to buy, £2,000, but you can easily end up spending the same you've paid for the bike or car on maintenance with just one service. And that's seemingly the problem with vehicles like this. But I'd welcome any of your thoughts. What is the current situation with the premium, big-engined, used motorcycle market? Are you finding in reality it's exactly the same for you? Moving on, Linda, thank you and good luck. And of course, go and check out her bike if you're interested. The fraudulent world of Facebook Marketplace, a lot of you got in touch with this. How to spot fraudulent adverts. And a lot of you said, Freddie, all you have to do here, look at an advert, then click on the person's profile to see exactly what they're selling. So I did exactly this. I found this Jeep Wrangler for sale for a ridiculously low price, and I thought, let's click on the person's profile, a gentleman called Dima, or a lady, and I can see here that this is the biggest fraudster that you're going to come across. They've got everything from Harley Davidsons, which should have a retail price of about £15,000, selling for £3,000. They've got Honda Jazzers at £3,000 for a 3-year-old car, and they also sell tractors for £3,000. So this person is having a sales fest at the moment, giving stuff for maybe 90% below market value a lot of the time. So this is the biggest fraudulent case of someone just putting up fake adverts that I've ever seen. And I thought, what would happen if I messaged this person for the Wrangler? And I said to Dima, that is a lovely looking Wrangler you've got for sale there. Can I buy it? And then the response was, hi, it's still available. For more information, please send an email with the year, make, model and price of the vehicle you're interested in to Natasha, seniorsales@gmail.com, and you will receive all of the information. You may wonder, why are they doing this? What do they get out of it? Well, this almost happened to me with a scam a few years ago. What they want to do is enter into an email discussion with you. That way they have your email address. They then want to try and squeeze out all of the information from you they possibly can. For example, maybe your date of birth, maybe your phone number, maybe a few other things. And before you know it, they've got enough information from you where maybe they can get your PayPal account, because they're going to have got the PayPal email registered to you, and they can log on to your PayPal. They can do a whole bunch of other things. They will squeeze you for as much information as possible and then use that to try and log on to all of your accounts. And they always seem to like using PayPal, these fraudsters, every single time. So be warned, and thank you all. Click on the person's profile and you'll see very easily if they're a fraudster. On now, a Scout with a story. Freddie, I'm back to biking after a 10-year break due to studies, work, and other adult-related things. I've always been an admirer of the Indian motorcycle, specifically the Scout 1133. An immaculate 17 plate popped up for sale with less than 1,000 miles on the clock, pictures included. After discussing with the seller, I arranged to view and eventually purchase the bike. However, when meeting the owner, she told me of a rather sad and tragic backstory belonging to the bike. The bike originally belonged to the owner's husband. He had multiple bikes and was a biker through and through. However, he was sadly diagnosed with terminal cancer, and as part of his bucket list, before passing away, he wanted to purchase and ride an Indian Scout. Unfortunately, he only managed to do 1,000 miles on it before he was too sick to ride it, and eventually he passed away. It was then dry stored in his garage, where it was maintained by his wife until she was ready to part with it. I took the bike out for its first ride yesterday. It was an absolute joy to ride and was amazing to get out on the bikes with my dad, pictures included. I'm 29 years old and feel extremely privileged, proud and lucky to be able to call this bike mine. This bike was a dying man's wish to ride and own. It is now in my care and I feel compelled to carry on this bike's legacy and cherish it at all costs. I think this bike puts things into perspective for me, that sometimes we take what we have for granted. Lewis, 29. Lewis, this is, well, first off, let's get on to the bike. This is, for me, the perfect colour combination of Indian Scout. It's a stunningly good-looking bike. They age incredibly well. I mean, they've been out for a few years now, these Scouts, and they genuinely get better with age. It's a perfect combination. And it's a genuinely moving story. I love vehicles with stories, and every single time that you ride that Scout, whether consciously or subconsciously, you will feel, as you said, perspective. It's that lust for life, that appreciation to be able to live every day that will be a constant reminder to you every single time you ride that Scout. You'll be reminded of the gentleman who used to own it and the reason that he bought it. And that's what old vehicles, classic vehicles with previous owners give you. They give you a little bit of history, a story. And if you can connect the story to your vehicle, it makes them so much more special. That is the magic of vehicles. It's that intangible, that emotive element. Lewis, that is in itself a very special vehicle to own. But with the story behind it, I really like stuff like that. Happy riding. On now, a rough and ready bike required. Hiya, I've recently got back into motorbiking after 15 years out, but primarily for commuting rather than having an expensive toy. Dipped back into the bike pool with a cheap Kawasaki ER5 from 1998. Great bike for my 30 to 40 miles per hour commute. But I've already realised a couple of issues with it. Not enough guts for anything over 50 comfortably, and too physically small. Currently hunting for the next bike, a perennial biker issue, and roughly circling a Gen 2 Kawasaki Versys, a Kawasaki Z650 RS, a Triumph Tiger, and a Triumph Bonneville as my top choices. Part of my criteria is that the bike, this is unusual, the bike needs to actually look a bit rough, as it has to live outside. So the Z650 RS is probably a dream, as I'd have to buy a new house with a garage, making it a very expensive bike. I'd welcome your thoughts on these bikes, bearing in mind my main use is a 20-mile round trip commute through some reasonably heavy traffic, plus wanting to comfortably do some touring. For example, from where I am on the south coast, I'd like to smash out motorway miles to Plymouth and spend a few days off the big roads going around Cornwall. I don't want to ride fast, I just want to have the power to munch those miles without ending up wrung out by the end of the day. I did that on 125cc bikes when younger. Andrew, this is what I would go for. Kawasaki, here it is, Versys 1000. Here's my thinking for this. You've got a really good shortlist of bikes. You said you don't want a bike that has to be a garage queen because it's not physically possible, and you also don't want something that looks too fancy and polished because it's just going to be outside, maybe getting a bit of rust over the winter months. This has to be a winter hack bike. So if you want a winter hack bike, this is my thinking. You don't want a modern classic because you're fearful of it losing the visual element if you leave it out in the winter months. You'll be constantly thinking, bugger, the bike isn't looking as good as it should do. That means that you need to get your excitement from other areas. And that's why I think you need to go for the big-engined Kawasaki Versys, because this is a bike that you'll be happy to leave outside. But instead of specifically getting your excitement from the looks of the bike, you're going to get the excitement from that big, powerful engine. And that's where the excitement will be. This is a fully loaded Kawasaki Versys 1000, very highly regarded bikes, with all of the panniers, the back box, 1000cc, 115 horsepower to the best of my knowledge, with 34,000 miles on the clock. That is an 11-year-old bike for £3,500. You'll be able to, as you want to, munch the miles, munch continents, do anything with complete ease, take off the panniers, and you'll have a perfectly streamlined bike for commuting, and a 1000cc engine in the Kawasaki Z1000. This is a really versatile, strong engine that's in the super nakeds. So you're going to have a bike that will do everything in its stride. Andrew, if it were me, I'd be going for that exact bike. Let me know what you go for. And welcome back to biking. On now to technical issues from Mark. Freddie, I've had an issue with Triumph and its TFT display. I own a Triumph Tiger 1200 Rally Explorer. Great bike, love it. And it is the latest in a long line of Triumphs I've owned for nearly 30 years. However, there is an issue with the bike and with Triumph which has annoyed me so much I've considered changing brands. In Triumph's marketing material, have a look at the picture here and keep an eye on this. In Triumph's marketing material and in the owner's manual, it talks about being the only manufacturer that offers full GoPro integration. Sounds great, doesn't it? Well, it's not. Recently I paid £300 for a new GoPro Hero 12. All excited, I linked it to the bike, which was seamless. But then I could not get the camera to start or stop recording. So I wrote to Triumph, and what came back from them stunned me. Triumph's response, again you can see the letter here, Triumph's response was that not only did they only test the system on a GoPro 7, but that they had no plans to update the software for later GoPros. This, I believe, is outrageous. They're selling a product as having full integration when it does not. Mark, this is like going out and buying a brand new Audi A4 with full mobile connectivity, but Audi saying this mobile connectivity only works with the iPhone 7. I agree with you, it is infuriating. It highlights in my mind, Mark, the exact issue with technology. Technology ages ferociously quickly and phenomenally badly. The problem is I wouldn't use a 10-year-old phone or laptop because the technology is so out of date. But when you buy a vehicle, whether it's a car or motorbike with loads of technology, we're lumbered with out-of-date technology that we don't really want, but we're having to maintain it because it's incorporated, it's ingrained into the vehicle we've bought. And that's the exact reason why technology just doesn't work on especially motorbikes. I remember when I was testing a Royal Enfield and it had this tripper navigation built in. And I remember thinking when I tested it, this is not going to age well. And I remember again when I had my old Jaguar XK, I bought it at 10 years old, and already the sat-nav on that car was laughably bad. I would much rather have a car with no sat-nav at all because it gives away any kind of aging. If I wanted to update the sat-nav on my old Jaguar, and apologies for always talking about my old Jaguar, it's just the only nice car I've ever owned, I would have had to buy a CD that cost £250 just to upgrade and update the maps. That's just an example of how badly tech ages and how quickly it evolves. So Mark, unfortunately, I'm not surprised at all, but that is not good enough, especially as when it's such a big sales pitch from Triumph's point of view. Don't get me wrong, I love tech, but I know that once every 3 years, tech has to all be replaced. I keep my phones for about 1 or 2 years. I keep my cameras for my motorbikes. I use Insta360. I keep those for 2 or 3 years before upgrading because tech's just evolving too quickly. And when it's incorporated into vehicles, it's a problem in my eyes and will continue to be more and more of a problem as more tech is added. On now to Turkey. Dear Freddie, I got my motorcycle license, have a look at these pics, at 2018, and since then I've made 3,000 kilometers on my Neo Cafe Racer Honda CB250R. 2018 model, which I purchased brand new. I finally found the time and confidence to embark on a 5-day-long trip through Greece with the CB250R. Since then, I feel like I'm poisoned by the joy of mountain roads. My older brother accompanied me with his brand new Triumph Speed 400. We even had to make a break-in oil change in Thessaloniki for his bike. Luckily, everything's gone just as planned, and after a total of 2,000 kilometers to the Albanian border of Greece and back to Istanbul. That's a serious trip. I have to admit though, I felt cramped after 8 hours of saddle time each and every day of the trip, and now I feel like it's time for me to try new sensations with new bikes and move to medium-size naked bike or a cruiser. I would like to seek your advice on my shortlist of next bike candidates. I've got an A2 license, so I'm only allowed to ride bikes with horsepower up to 44. Here's the shortlist. Number 1, Royal Enfield Continental GT. I'm going to go through these, Tanner, one by one with you. Royal Enfield Continental GT. Tanner, that's a no, because I can see here you're just over 6 foot tall and you want something a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more spacious. Take off the Continental GT off your list because you'll be slightly too cramped and it won't be comfortable enough for these big trips. I promise you that. These are really cool bikes, the Continentals, and they hark back to an era. They're emotive like almost nothing else. But if you are serious on doing long distances, they are too uncomfortable for that, and you'll find yourself making excuses to not do long tours. Interesting on the price as well, over £9,000 sterling equivalent. So bikes in Turkey with the high taxes are about 50% more than in the UK, which is a pain for Turkish riders, a real pain. Number 2, Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, again £9,000 bike. Yes, that's more in line, Tanner, with what you should be looking at. But your third option is the bike I'd pick for you. It's a bike that's only just come out, the Kawasaki Eliminator 500. Not just because it's the cheapest, and it is, £8,800 equivalent, but this is a bike that I know almost nothing about, so I've done a bit of research on it. It's a very, very good looking thing, akin to the Honda Rebel 500, and a better looking version in my eyes than the Kawasaki Vulcan. This is an elegant bike, and it comes in the UK at £6,000. Blurb on Kawasaki's website: when the streets are calling, answer with the all-new Eliminator 500. This bike shakes up convention with a sleek and low design, a low and comfortable seat, a light and easy handling for the most approachable cruiser from Kawasaki yet. Don't overthink it. Timeless design has been combined with modern technology so you can just ride. I think they've done a seriously good job. £6,000 in the UK. Let's have a look at this. Kawasaki's finance website page. You can get definitely better deals, but for complete ease, I've gone with this just to demonstrate. Really tempting price initially. And I can see here they've got Summer Blast, sorry, it's in tiny font here, £500 deposit contribution plus 2 + 2 years warranty. So if you take this deal, you can have 4 years Kawasaki warranty. If I put down a £1,500 sterling deposit for HP, it means that I'm going to be paying £132 a month for 3 years, and I'm done at the end of the term. I'm going to be paying a total charge of £600, so it's just £200 in interest every year. And for just a £1,500 deposit, with relatively tiny monthly repayments of £132, and the bike is mine at the end of the term. These kind of bikes are magic for the amount of people they're going to get into biking. They've got the cool vibes that people like when they dream about getting into biking, but they're genuinely affordable, infinitely cheaper than any car, and it makes a huge amount of sense as a vehicle. And going back to the very start of the podcast, when Linda was querying what's going on with the used bike market for these older bikes, 20 to 25 years old, we're coming full circle here to wrap up the podcast. A large chunk of it is this is what's happening. Bikes like this coming along with 4 years warranty, with no worries about low emission zone areas. You can take them to any country, any city without having to worry about these emissions regulations. It's tiny monthly repayments. It's never going to break down because it's new, and if it does break down, you've got 4 years warranty, and that looks sensationally good. I'll wrap it up there. Tanner, definitely the Kawasaki would be my pick. I thank you so much, everyone, for watching this week's episode. Have a brilliant week all, and I'll see you all in the next one.